Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on October the 24th in the year of our Lord 2025. Sorry I'm a couple of minutes late. I was having some technical difficulties getting on YouTube to do our daily news update appetizers. But here we go.
Well, that leads me to my next line of inquiry, which is any Trump going to be running for office at any point soon?
This is always the trick question, right? Because if you say no, then you decide to do something at another stage in life. I appreciate the applause, and someone said, a bunch of friends sent me a poll last week. It's, JD and I are the only guys in double digits. I'm like, I haven't really been, out there all that much
but
for it.
You're
I'm doing
the
business.
heir.
But it's still, who knows? Honestly, the heir is whoever deserves it, really. You know what I mean? There's not an heir. Contrary to what we've seen, this isn't a monarchy, right? Like, I know they like doing the whole no kings thing and dressing up like, Bozo the Clown, and I think that's supposed to be effective. I don't know. It doesn't seem to move the needle much for me, but, it also is sort of ironic that they're talking about not having kings with a president that was elected in a landslide, won the Electoral College, won the popular vote, won all 7 swing states in a historic fashion. Before that, actually left office. I mean, he's like a really shitty king, actually. I mean, if he's a king, he's doing a lousy job, because a king wouldn't have done that. A king wouldn't have allowed himself to be prosecuted and persecuted and almost jailed, almost assassinated. A king probably wouldn't allow those protests to happen. And if he was a king, the government would be open and not shut down by Democrats who want to make sure that we're funding health care for illegals.
That's right.
But,
so is
the narrative, as we all know, the narrative doesn't always have to line up with reality.
Was that a long way of saying no?
You have to see.
So not never.
No, but not now. But
not now, but not never.
There may be a time, and if it's required of me, and I can do that for my country, it's an honor. The fact that I have this kind of reaction is.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. But no,
okay.
Listen, just that kind of reaction, like that's the greatest honor I could receive.
Well, that leads me to my next line of inquiry, which is any Trump going to be running for office at any point soon?
You had an appearance on The View the other day.
Your husband is the least qualified Health and Human Services head that we've had in history.
Bobby and Trump are casting doubt on the efficacy of the vaccine.
You know he's not a doctor.
Does he or does he not have a brain worm?
The criticism of him, and then to direct it at you, is insane. But it's all about the vaccines. Like, what is that?
I am honestly confused by that. People are being compensated for vaccine injuries. There's a whole service set up for it. Can both sides agree somebody has been injured by it? They proved it in court. And then say, well, can we do a vaccine where less people are injured?
Same vaccine, fewer deaths.
Yeah. Is that crazy? Why does that make people mad?
You had an appearance on The View the other day.
Everyone, Judicial Watch guys, Supreme Court are arguing for our client, Congressman Boss, that candidates have a right to challenge election rules, like in Illinois, where they count ballots that are received for up to 14 days after the election. The Supreme Court seems primed to rule in our favor. We won't know until the opinion's issued, but there are many concerns about denying candidates the right to challenge elections of the law. Everyone should.
New York Attorney General Letitia James just pleaded not guilty in federal court in Norfolk, Virginia. It is her first court appearance on a 2-count bank fraud indictment tied to a 2020 home purchase. Prosecutors say Letitia James signed a second home rider agreeing the property would be for her personal use, which got her a better loan term. They say she then rented that house out to a family member instead of actually living in it. Expected to file now, she and her attorneys, a motion to dismiss the case, which she has called vindictive and selective prosecution. She's expected to speak at any moment outside court. We will take you there live. New York Attorney General.
I thought I was going to have a day where I didn't have to start the show with saying the words Jack Smith. You say it 3 times like Beetlejuice. You do 3 shows in a row, and he appears.
So what we have here is a response from the attorneys representing Jack Smith, and this is addressed to both Jim Jordan and Chuck Grassley. This is a response to the request that was made last week by Jim Jordan to appear in a transcribed interview. But then here's how it ends up. Mr. Smith is available to testify in an open hearing at your earliest convenience. So not what Jim Jordan was asking for, but kind of flipping the script and saying, let's do this out in the open. If this is the end of it, do it in public. Because it is something the American people are interested in. Accountability isn't just with these people, it is also with the entire process as well.
I thought I was...
3, 2, 1.
Sometimes we need permission to scream, right? We're so used to holding things together or feeling like we should be able to handle whatever's going on in our life, especially as adults. But I think sometimes just having permission to release is a really big part of it.
Scream with us! Scream with us! Scream with us! Scream with us! Scream with us!
Oh, there you have it, folks. Pretty amazing. Okay, sorry about that. We just got a little bit of a little snafu there. But at any rate, that was your daily news appetizer. Let's jump over here. Here we go. Our episode 1725, that's our live stream this evening. Let's scroll down here and click the show more button and expand the description box, close out the live chat. Tonight we have information from American Center for Law and Justice, ACLJ, Benny Johnson, Wendy Bell Radio, and X22 Report. But before we get into that, I do have shout-outs to give to Donna111, just started following my channel. Tim Mack, 48, just started following my channel. NC Katz just started following my channel. Jordan Dahl just started following my channel. Tors just started following my channel. Lisa Keller just started following my channel. Dan Klung 11730 just started following my channel. And M Herbert 1213 just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in this evening, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, down here we also have some comments. Debbie BS reposted my episode 1724. Who's Asking commented on my episode 1722. Debbie BS commented on my episode. Debbie BS and Foxy Grandma commented on my episode 1724. Debbie BS commented on my extra 507B and 507C. And Debbie BS commented on my extra 508A, 508B, and 508C, along with Fisher C45. And Debbie BS commented on my extra 509A. So thank you very much for your comments. I really enjoy reading your input, and I appreciate your support. So let me give this a thumbs up. Boom. There we go. That's how easy it is, folks, to give a thumbs up. And I have one of those thumbs up icons right there. I just gave myself a thumbs up for this video. I wish you would do it as well. Okay, let's see what American Center for Law and Justice has to say. Shutdown chaos, ridiculous bill exposed. Okay, let's see what that's all about.
Obviously, there is pain. There is pain going right now if you are a member of the government, if you are working for the government, maybe you've been furloughed, maybe your paychecks are being held, and the Republicans, of course, there was another opportunity to move forward. The Democrats once again shut it down. This is how many attempts? The 13th, 12th attempt?
Yeah, that the Democrats decided not to reopen the government with a clean continuing resolution.
And not even really discuss it, not even have
Right.
any sort of conversation. So that's what's happening. Of course, the Democrats will say it's the Republicans. Republicans will say it's the Democrats. And the Republicans put a point together and said, hey, how about we start paying people, though?
So Senator Ron Johnson is expected to have a vote today on a bill which would pay federal employees that are still having to work, because there are those that are furloughed that are at home,
70%.
that aren't going to work. But then there are those, you think about the air traffic control, the military, people that still have to show up and are not going to be receiving a paycheck this Friday when payday rolls around. And so he put together a bill that those that are still having to show up should be getting paid for that. The Democrats are trying to frame that as, well, then the president gets to pick who's essential and who's not. He gets to pick who's getting paid and who's not, which is a ridiculous argument in and of itself. But now the Democrats came up with two kind of competing alternatives to Senator Johnson's
They can't
bill.
just say yes, that's a good idea.
Right. They can't do that. And then they can't also look like they didn't come up with something on their own.
Right.
So one is the most bizarre thing that I think I've seen proposed by a Democrat, and they proposed a lot because someone
that's saying a lot. Well,
someone thought this is a really good idea and it's going to make us look better throughout this shutdown process. This comes out of Senator Gary Peters from Michigan. He's already planning to announce today or to drop at the Senate today that would pay all federal employees from the start of the shutdown up until when that bill is enacted. So essentially hitting the reset button on the government shutdown.
Reopen. Close.
We're going to pay everybody, and then you get your back pay, your 1 or 2 missed paychecks throughout this process, Jordan. But then immediately you're back at zero. You're still nervous for your family. You're still worried about it.
It opens a wild precedent.
A horrendous precedent to open, because what it does is allows the government to operate at 100% when Congress has not passed a budget, because now you're paying for everyone, and because you have to do it every couple weeks, you're having to go back and vote. And if they're trying to pressure Republicans into doing this, say, oh, these people need their paychecks, instead of Republicans saying they'd all be getting their back pay right now if you signed on with the majority party who controls the House, the Senate, and the White House continuing resolution, which, by the way, adds nothing new to what was already passed as law a year ago. So no new Republican plans. Just keep things as they are. Yeah. You don't have to start a precedent of funding the government, but it's technically shut down.
Yeah, the thing is, like, you
do that forever.
You could literally keep the government closed and shut down forever,
but
fully paid. But then, of course, some of your services aren't getting to all the. It could be a disaster that they're not thinking of long term, or maybe they are, and maybe that's what they want.
Now, also, he doesn't really want it to go through, because he's not putting it to a normal floor vote. He's forcing it through unanimous consent, which try getting 100 people.
Right.
That would be every senator would have to agree to move forward.
You have to get 100% of the U.S. Senate on a piece of legislation, say we'll pay everybody for 2 weeks. And by the way, we'll come back again in 2 weeks and have to pay them again, or else you'll be the bad. And then what is the impetus for ending the shutdown then if you are a Democrat, if you could now pay the entire bureaucracy, which you love, tell the OMB they can't furlough any more people, which is, again, not the role of Congress. The executive branch, again, executes the laws that they pass. And then at the same time, they will try to use it against Republicans to say in ads, see, we had a bill to pay you to make sure your loved one who worked for the federal government was paid. They voted no. But what they're not telling you the truth is, you'd be having this fight every 2 weeks, which means you would never get to an end of a shutdown. And any federal employee right now who has been there at least since Trump 45, so President Trump's first term, has been through a shutdown longer than this. Now it's getting closer, but it was 35 days. I think we're at day 23 right now. So I think they've been through it. They know they got their back pay. I think it's when you start getting close to the day 30, if it looks like no movement, you got to push on something like what Ron Johnson is proposing, and not be scared into thinking that you've got to vote for this Democrat proposal because of what ads they must run against you.
Well, and here's the other.
The Democrats know right now it's hurting them. They tried to make it the Trump shutdown. It's been the Schumer shutdown since day one. No one believes it's Trump.
And what does Gary Peters' proposal do? It says, okay, you get your back pay, but that stress doesn't go away. You as an air traffic controller, you still now have to worry about the next paycheck. And you know what they're going to do, the Senate, after they vote on these today, or I'm sorry, not even vote, have unanimous consent, go home for the weekend on Thursday. They're done.
Yeah,
close up shop. They're still getting paid. And when people like Bernie Sanders are asked, he said, well, I mean, it's a good idea, but I mean, some of these people are younger, they have families, they can't afford to do that. You can't ask the Congress to do what we're asking the entire federal government to do. How dare you suggest that? And he's supposed to be the socialist. It's so quickly.
He's the socialist that ended up in multi-million-dollar book deals.
It's how they forget their ideology when you're asked them to do the same thing that they want the rest of the country to do.
Listen, this ends easily by just passing the CR. The CR has nothing new, no new plans in it. That's why you don't hear anything from them about, oh, this is going to do this and that, because even when they try that, it's so quickly debunked because this legislation, the legislation that this is tied to, already passed. And in a continuing resolution, you can't add a bunch of stuff. So the Democrats just don't want to even give Republicans a win on a continuing resolution. That's not final. That's not like passing a final budget. This is how dedicated they are to the radical left of their party, that they think even the bureaucrats who usually vote Democrat, I think it's about 90%, they're willing to make sure, to put them in pain, in harm's way because of politics, because they don't want to be outdone by the more liberal members of their party like AOC and others who they think they are all in a fight with, especially Schumer. It has nothing to do really with policy. It has to do with one political party trying to inflict pain on another political party because they've got issues within their political party where harder left is what's happening with the Democrats right now. So they need to look, the current leadership needs to look very tough, even when they're in the minority, even when the legislation adds nothing new by Republicans that already had passed the House, the Senate, and would just keep the budget going so everybody gets paid. They had to take a stand and say, no, we want $1 trillion added to this. And they're the minority party. Let's figure They don't get to add $1 trillion to anything.
This is a continuing resolution. This isn't new appropriations. This is saying we're keeping everything at the current levels. That doesn't mean this is a 100% Republican-backed bill that is all their spending priorities. It means that it's everything in the federal government. So every Democrat supported program, et cetera, is in that as it has been from the past year. This is the end of the fiscal year. They need a continuing resolution to keep it going, basically status quo. And it's the Democrats that are trying to exploit it at this most tough time because it is the end of the federal government's fiscal year to try and add things to it.
Unbelievable, folks. Another example, just one more example of how the Democrats only care about themselves. They don't even give a shit about the people, the public, the citizens, the Americans that voted for them. All they care about is their party and their power, and they'll do anything they can to maintain that. Unbelievable. All right, let's click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from American Center for Law and Justice. I'm following the channel. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and see what Benny Johnson has to say about new footage of January 6th pipe bomber released. FBI offers $500,000 reward. And I don't know that this is new footage. I think it's footage that's been hidden someplace because that's what the deep state has been doing. I know Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are doing their best to uncover this stuff, and that's probably why this new footage has been released. Let's take a watch here and see what's going on. Okay, my audio is not coming through, so I'm going to do a quick refresh here. Hang on just one second. My audio is not coming through, so I'm going to do a Okay. Let's try this again.
Benny, a really interesting thing has happened with January 6th. Democrats who couldn't shut up about January 6th when they were in power, remember the insurrection news cycle, that was 24/7 for the better part of 2 or 3 years, and then suddenly Republicans got into power and started investigating it themselves. And boy, they've changed their tune.
Are you at all concerned that the new January 6th committee will find you liable for that day?
Like,
Are you
for
at all
instance,
concerned about the new January 6th committee
listen
finding
to
you
how
liable
Pelosi
for that day?
reacts to this reporter.
Refuse the National Guard on January 6th.
Shut up. I did not refuse the National Guard. The president didn't send it. Why are you coming here with Republican talking points as if you're a serious journalist?
The American people want to know. We still have questions. Thank you.
And then the smile on camera is just perfect from this Lindell TV reporter. Well done. And I just love this reaction. Listen.
Shut up.
Yeah, that's funny. That's the Democrats' reaction now to January 6th questions. They couldn't get enough January 6th questions until people actually started doing real investigations. And then Democrats now want us to, what? Shut up, as Nancy Pelosi puts it. Pipe bomb and really something that has been a linchpin, of course, for the narrative around January 6th. The FBI released new pipe bomber info. They did, in fact. I'll show it to you in just a second. This is one of the FBI agents. His name's Kyle Seraphin, and he was in the Washington field office after January 6th, and he said he was put on the pipe bomber story and that they effectively had the guy, and then he was told, don't look into it anymore. Move along. You're not allowed to investigate that anymore. We were illogically pulled from the assignment and returned to our offices for generic online lead assessments. This could have been done by anyone, while our surveillance assessments was something we had specialized experience, training, and equipment to accomplish. He's like, listen, like the FBI clearly did not want us to find the pipe bomber. Why is that exactly? The FBI releases new surveillance video. The FBI is obviously being run by very different people now. The suspect who placed the pipe bombs near the DNC RNC offices. The pipe bombs, by the way, really resemble FBI training devices. It really makes you wonder, is the FBI going to find someone who was working for them? I don't know. I'm not sure. But they are, it seems like, doing their best in this new administration to find him. And this $500,000 reward for information leading to his arrest is a pretty hefty reward, one of the biggest ones out there. The January 6th pipe bomber now is, it looks like they're really doing their best to try and heat up this case. FBI made a good faith effort to release a lot more video. I wish that it shows something that could lead to more breakthroughs. I'll pull out 2 observations here, 2 corrections, and I'll add more. The pipe bomber suspect, you can see here, transferring something to his small and shiny from his right hand to his left. Appears to put that object in his left pocket. What is that? Ladies and gentlemen, could that be the strange untraceable phone that he used? As you can see right here, look at the phone. He's like sitting there just on the phone, standing there in front of like one of these is like Mitch McConnell's houses, by the way. And he, it just seems to be the only phone that they couldn't ever get, right? Never get that one phone. They tracked every other J6er based on the signature ping of their cellular device. They couldn't get that one. Here's the new information from the FBI. It's gone pretty viral here. It's gotten millions of views, 10,000 likes, 4,000 reposts. With the FBI talking about the new video.
On January 5th, 2021, between 7:30 and 8:30 p.m., an unidentified individual placed pipe bombs near the offices of the Democratic National Committee and the Republican National Committee in Washington, D.C. The FBI and our partners are renewing our call for tips from the public to help us identify the suspect. A reward of up to $500,000 is available for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of the individual responsible for this attempted attack. If you have any information, please call the FBI at 1-800-CALL. First time the suspect is seen is at approximately 7:34 p.m. at the intersection of 1st Street and North Carolina Avenue Southeast. The person walks southwest on North Carolina Avenue, turns north on New Jersey Avenue, west on D Street, and then south on South Capitol Street.
I like the music. They're using good music selection.
This footage of the suspect on South Capitol Street shows the person setting down their backpack, which is believed to contain one of the bombs at this time. The suspect appears to put on a pair of glasses and scan the area, standing on tiptoes.
Interesting.
Before picking up the backpack, turning around, and heading back the way they came on South Capitol Street.
Strange behavior, honestly.
After reaching the corner of D Street, the suspect turns around again, and this time walks south all the way down South Capitol Street to a bench outside the Democratic National Committee headquarters building. Here we see the suspects sit on the bench for a few minutes. They do not place the bomb at this time. The suspect then walks east on Ivy Street.
This is new footage.
Turns north on New Jersey Avenue, and then pauses near the corner of D Street before retracing their steps back to the DNC bench where the first bomb is placed.
New footage, new footage, new footage.
This footage shows the suspect sitting on the DNC bench before placing the first bomb. Here we see the suspect place the bomb at approximately 7:54 p.m. From there, the person walks north on South Capitol Street. East on D Street, south on New Jersey Avenue, northeast on North Carolina Avenue, when we lose video coverage of the suspect at approximately 8 p.m. 8 minutes later, at about 8:08 p.m., we pick the suspect back up on camera heading north on 2nd Street. The suspect walks west on C Street, enters an alley that leads to Rumsey Court, and then walks west on Rumsey Court.
Making the rounds here.
This footage shows the suspect pass between the RNC and the Capitol Hill Club, holding the backpack out to the side. The person continues between the RNC and the Capitol Hill Club, then continues north on 1st Street, east on C Street, back into the alley toward Rumsey Court, back onto Rumsey Court.
What? It's like just doing a lap?
They placed the second pipe bomb at approximately 8:16 p.m. The suspect then turns back onto Rumsey Court, walking east until the person is last seen on camera at approximately 8:18 p.m., wearing the backpack on their shoulders. The bomb is believed to have been placed shortly before this video, based on how the suspect is carrying the backpack. We still believe there is someone out there who has information they may not have realized was significant until now. We're asking you to come forward to share that information with the FBI.
Okay. So that's the new footage. It's like quite a bit of new footage there. And it's, you know, some people are very upset about it. Some people are saying this is like part of the cover-up. And some people are, you know, really thankful that the FBI seems to be doing their level-headed best to now find the pipe bomber. I mean, we'll, like, again, I suppose we'll see. The proof will be in the actual conviction of an individual who placed the pipe bombs. And let me tell you something. I want this person convicted, obviously.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. And, you know, he brought up an excellent point when he said it was amazing how many of the J6ers they could track down by the pings on their phones. But this guy couldn't. Now, you know, it could have been, I don't know, some kind of phone that he bought, paid cash for at a Walmart. I don't know. I don't know that he was talking on, but you saw video of him talking on a phone. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Benny Johnson. All right. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. I did want to share that with you. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Benny Johnson, following his channel and giving him a thumbs up. All right, let's jump back here and see what Wendy Bell has to say about who is more illegal. That sounds interesting, and she always has some interesting stuff, so let's take a listen. All right, I'm going to have to do a quick refresh here, folks, because the audio is not coming through.
Welcome back to the Wendy Bell Radio program. You know, I ran across this article here in the Washington Examiner. Quickly, I want to say to you, there's a representative from Washington State. His name's Adam Smith. He's actually the ranking member on the House Armed Services Committee. And he's apparently pressuring Mike Johnson, Speaker, to bring the House back into session because they want to have a conversation about Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth basically obliterating these narco-terrorists in the middle of the sea. And he says, they failed to demonstrate the legality of these strikes, provide transparency on the process used, or even a list of the cartels that may have been designated as terrorist organizations. And he goes, when you kill somebody, you should know if you're not at war, not in a declared war, you really need to know someone's name at least. That's Rand Paul saying that. Republican senator, if you're not at war. See, Senator and Representative Smith, we are at war. Do you not understand that? It is all out. And you know who knows this? All of the people who are getting obliterated in the middle of the ocean. Continue to send your boats. Continue to send your submarines, which, by the way, aren't going off on a fishing expedition. And we will blow you into smithereens. That's the only way. That is the only way you argue with evil. You freaking take care of it. Done. Love it. Go. More. Now, of course, over in the fake news, here's David Muir with his arms on the table, looking very serious, as he always does. And he's very concerned about this ballroom that Donald Trump is financing by himself and with a lot of rich companies and personal donors. By the way, we have the list. All right? So I want you to hear David Muir. This is all that got his boxers in a bunch last night.
Now to the growing outrage over the demolition at the White House tonight, the before and after images right here. Satellite images showing the East Wing of the White House just weeks ago. And look at this. This is what it looks like now. The East Wing completely gone tonight. The president had said his $300 million ballroom would not affect the integrity of the White House. So Mary Bruce asking the White House tonight why the American people weren't told the entire East Wing would be gone. And all of this amid this government shutdown, now day 23. Here's Mary Bruce.
Here's Mary Bruce. Well, David, you know what? How about you just take a seat for a little while? Because weren't you the guy in that debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump? Who was he? Yeah. He's the guy who said the Haitians weren't eating cats in Ohio, right? No, we did a fact check here, Mr. President. And they tell us there in Ohio, nobody's eating cats. And what were they doing? They were eating cats, right? David, you have no credibility. You're a hack, okay? And you can be all upset about the ballroom. We're going to save that clip because it's not going to age well, as this thing, of course, will be fantastic. And it will be multi-purpose and it will be glorious. But because Trump is on it, because Trump isn't using your money, they have to hate it. They have to hate everything he does. Right? Which is so wild, growing outrage. No, anybody who's outraged over that needs to go to Portland or Seattle or even Pittsburgh. We got a lot of reasons for you to be outraged. And none of it has to do with the privately funded freaking ballroom, you feckless moron, David. Meantime, Andrew Cuomo cranking up the AI heat on Zohran Mamdani, dropping this ad. It's 2 minutes. You got to hear this because apparently the war is officially on in the mayor's race in the Big Apple. Listen to this. Wow.
Zohran Mamdani's opponents want you to believe he's an inexperienced radical whose policies will make New York City more dangerous. But what do his actual supporters think?
Mamdani isn't crazy. He's just trying to even the playing field.
Give everyone a fair shot. Sure, he said multiple times we need to defund the police, but that was just a metaphor.
And yes, he did say crime is a social construct. But that was also a metaphor.
His main backer, the Democratic Socialists' ideas are common sense, such as
decriminalizing misdemeanors, like shoplifting,
third-degree assault,
trespassing, prostitution,
and drunk driving.
With plans to decriminalize all drugs, Mamdani will be a job creator for drug dealers.
Instead of helping us homeless get off the streets and into the mental health facilities we need, he wants to give us safe injection sites to do crack and let us sleep in subway carts.
These are actual policies Mamdani and the DSA want to implement on day one.
When a woman's being domestically abused, she finally won't have to deal with some pesky cop to arrest the abuser, but now a social worker to help, kumbaya the situation.
Breathe in, breathe out.
Mamdani is finally lowering jail sentences.
Guilty!
But Mom Donnie says you're free to go.
Woo-hoo! Who cares if legalizing prostitution statistically leads to an increase for sex trafficking of women and young girls by 70%?
You can't have safety without equality.
For unlawful abiding citizens like us, globalize the Intifada.
I'm a criminal. I'm a criminal. I'm a criminal.
I'm a criminal.
Yep. I'm a criminal.
For Zoran.
For Zoran Mamdani.
I didn't have a real job until I was 30, but sure, give me the keys to the city. What's the worst that can happen?
Paid for by Cuomo for NYC.
Oh my goodness, gravy. You've got to watch it if you're listening to us and not watching the live video. Holy mackerel. It's almost like Andrew Cuomo realizes the fight. Okay, when we come back, did you guys see this document dropped by Grassley? Don't tell me that Biden's everything wasn't weaponized against Donald Trump. More proof that subpoenas will be coming out. Oh, yeah. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio program.
Okay, let's get past this commercial break. Should be coming back here about the 35 or 36-minute mark here.
Not good. My alarm punched me. Like,
here we go.
You guys know that, and this is a real risk. Because our show is one of the earliest shows to broadcast anywhere in the United States that talks about conservative values. That is a talk show. And we put up our rundown, everything that we're talking about, every audio soundbite, even the time codes at Wendy Bell. Well, if you go to locals.com and then you put in our name, Wendy Bell Radio, it's like $5 a month. And we give you 2 months free because we feel bad about charging anybody for anything. We're such bad capitalists, Brock. I've got to be honest with you. So anyway, you could go there and you get all the links to this. You get a link to that ad. I want to talk about this though, because the clutching of pearls over anything that Donald Trump does is so ridiculous. When you put it next to the true weaponization of the government against him in his first term, in the second term that he should have won, that was stolen from him, and then of course now. And I want to read you this article from the Federalist because they just dropped a newly declassified document that shows who in the Biden administration signed off on this Arctic frost, this operation to basically unleash Jack Smith, and of course, the FBI, and this nonsense about Donald Trump being a Russian agent, all of this stuff. Arctic frost was the fodder of the elector, seating a new set of electors that Jack Smith was going after. And I want to read this to you because you're gonna hear some familiar names. The Biden administration for 4 years, through liar-in-chief Karine Jean-Pierre, swore to America up and down, in and out, every day, at any opportunity they could, that they knew nothing about anything. We didn't know what was going on. Joe Biden had no idea that Mar-a-Lago was being raided. What? There's a dossier? What are you talking about? That's crazy. There are no secret files. Benny Thompson. I didn't know I was supposed to keep all of those documents. We weren't allowed to bulk erase them all. What? Why do we have burn bags? There's no locked room at the FBI. I mean, it's so ridiculous. Document shows Garland, Ray, and Monaco all over corrupt Arctic frost. This isn't going to age well for these folks. The fingerprints of top deep staters in President Joe Biden's weaponized Department of Justice are all over the launch of the corrupt Arctic frost investigation, according to a document just dropped by Senator Chuck Grassley, who is the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee and the oldest member of Congress, which I just think is delicious. Dude's been around for 1,000 years, and this might be his swan song. I'm going to leave at some point, and I'm going to take you Jags with me. I hope so. Just received this doc from DOJ, proof that Biden Attorney General Merrick Garland and Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco and FBI Director Chris Wray all personally approved opening Arctic frost. Grassley, the Iowa Republican, wrote Thursday afternoon on X. This investigation unleashed unchecked government power at the highest levels. My oversight will continue. And of course, it was from Operation Arctic Frost that then they would justify, you know what, we need to spy on some Republicans in Congress. Let's get some phone records. Let's see what these people know. We all understand what was going on. They stole 2020. They used COVID, mail-in ballots, all that jazz. Fear to manipulate, to steal the election, and to try to convince you that more people than voted for Barack Obama in either of his presidencies, either of his terms, super duperly wanted that old guy who nobody ever liked really ever, who was a mediocre talent, Joe Biden, a plagiarist, yes, which we would call a liar, right? We all wanted him over Donald Trump, who had reduced taxes, increased the GDP, absolutely slashed unemployment, made huge gains in the electorate across the country, right? Now, no, we really want Joe Biden instead, said 81 million people never, after a dude who never campaigned. All right, so let's get back to this document. The document is initialed by the DOJ's top generals, and it unleashed Arctic Frost, the flimsy FBI probe that led to politically conflicted Special Counsel Jack Smith's election lawfare campaign against President Donald Trump. The political witch hunt aimed to take down the Democrats' biggest political threat in advance of the 2024 election. You know, and it's really quite amazing when you consider the ultimate wrap-up smear used here, because they use media reports in this official document. And I'm going to read some of it to you. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to read you the first paragraph or so. Unclassified document. Here we go. Of course, it's all these pages long. And basically what it says is all these media personalities and podcasters and other people, nobody actionable, nobody actually credible in the administration or otherwise, was saying that Donald Trump was anything other than law-abiding, playing by the rules. And they said, you know what, a review of all the apparently fraudulent elector certificates. This is what they were saying. They were saying that Donald Trump was trying to seat an alternate slate of electors to overturn the election results, steal the election that was rightfully stolen from him by Joe Biden and all these idiots, right? And that was the basic predicate of Arctic Frost. And then it led to a much wider net with Republicans being spied on. It's totally preposterous. The wrap-up smear using the media to then go back to the media with the fake information and be like, look, we have information that Donald Trump could be a Russian asset. He's tried to steal an election. Look at what's going on here. Preposterous. And yet, so funny, Trump still won. He still won. And he won by a lot. I want to get back to this article, though, because it tells, oh my, corrupt as nuts these people were, ladies and gentlemen. The document is initialed by the DOJ's top generals, unleashing Arctic Frost. Dated April 4th, 2022. The memorandum for Attorney General Garland from Chris Wray and through the Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco is an urgent request asking Garland to sign off on the FBI Washington field office, opening a full sensitive investigation matter into Trump, his campaign, and all of his allies on allegations that they attempted to overthrow the 2020 election. It was flimsy at best. The memo provided very thin detail and basis to open a criminal case. It appears to have trampled all over the rights of Republican groups and individuals, including Trump and members of Congress. Your approval is requested as soon as possible, the memo alerted Garland. Due to the nature of this sensitive investigative matter at issue and pursuant to DOJ guidance, they may or may not open this full investigation without your authorization. It appears Garland, blocked by Republicans for the Supreme Court justice seat he coveted, was more than happy to sign off. In an executive summary, the memo rehashes the Democrats' January 6, 2020 insurrection conspiracy theory, claiming that the Trump campaign's legal strategy to present alternate electors from 7 swing states where legal challenges over the election were ongoing proved an apparent effort to obstruct Congress's certification of the Electoral College. It's ridiculous. The only reason the corrupt Washington field office asked Garland to sign off is that a February 2020 DOJ memo required top approval to open sensitive investigative matters. And Lisa Monaco signs at the bottom of it, Merrick, I strongly suggest you sign this, which he did. It was all a witch hunt. They knew it was all garbage, and they were all on with it. And don't tell me Joe Biden wasn't completely in the know as well. What's also intriguing about this, let's think about this. Despite all of this, despite all of the things that they threw at President Trump, despite all of the ways they went and they invaded his home, they invaded his wife's belongings, right? They made up garbage about classified documents. They brought their own cover sheets marked classified and top secret, all to persuade those of you who are still asleep at the wheel and unaware of the propaganda that you are under every single day by your mainstream media, to convince you that Donald Trump is what they are, criminal. And yet, who's the person who always comes out of this clean? Cleaner than clean, President Trump. They impeached him, guys, over a phone call. A phone call in which he was merely saying to the president of Ukraine, got some shitty stuff going on over there, i.e. Burisma and Joe Biden's family. Didn't say it, but that's what he meant. You guys need to figure this out. This corruption has to stop. And I want it to stop while I'm president. Impeach him! Despite all that they've thrown at Donald Trump, I want to remind you of something, because you did it. You. This is the number. He won approximately 2,660 counties. Donald Trump did. 2,660 counties in last year's election. There are 3,111. 2,660 counties out of 3,111 is astronomical. Even with every kitchen sink they threw at him, even with the Department of Justice gunning for him, even with the raid at Mar-a-Lago where lethal force was approved. Because there was Merrick Garland, Joe Biden hoping that somebody would get trigger happy. Somebody would get shot and killed, and it would be okay. The result of you showing up in November, it was absolutely amazing. You sniffed it out. You saw through it. The 24-hour news cycle, the constant bombardment of garbage, the press conferences behind the seal of the White House, pretending that this is something super duper important. Oh my gosh. And there you are saying, not a chance.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there, but that's very, very amazing. I mean, Biden didn't win 500 counties. I mean, when you do the math, it was less than 500. Okay. So then if Trump won 2,600 and Biden did win 500, what, that's over 80%, like 85%. Now that's not population, because, you know, you've got a lot of crazy things that go on in these big cities like New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco and Chicago. You know, a lot of people that are dead voting, people that probably are dead that even live in other areas are voting in Chicago and Los Angeles. Let me go ahead and click on this Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio. I am following her channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and see what X22 report has to say on Brennan sends message to Comey. Did Scavino give us the green light? Some of all fears. Okay, well, let's see what that's all about.
The link in the description. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech, fake news, the puppet masters, you can see they are now panicking, and it looks like they're following the 16-year plan. And I think Trump and the Patriots, they are actually bringing them down this path of the 16-year plan. Because once again, when all else fails and the crimes that they've committed are being brought out into the open, they need distractions. And you can see that's exactly what's happening. Every day that passes, Trump and the Patriots, what are they doing? They're showing the American people who the criminals are. Yes, it's the D's. They're rooting for the criminals. They're not assisting the federal government. They're actually assisting the criminals that are in this country. They're assisting those individuals that illegally came over the border, not citizens of this country. They are assisting them. So basically, they love crime. They're assisting all the criminals. And you could see that as Trump and the Patriots bring charges against Brennan, Comey, Schiff, which I do believe he'll be coming soon, Letitia James, and many others, you can see that they know exactly where this is all headed. And basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to create a distraction because this is all they have left. And basically we know that this is all part of their plan. Now, Trump, I do believe he knows what they're trying to do. And you have to remember, this is very, very important. He is the middleman. He can't just say, hey, you know something, I'm on Putin's side. I've been talking to him through back channels. And yeah, we're trying to get these people who we call the allies, you know, we're trying to bring them to a place where we can have peace. He also can't say, hey, by the way, I know who's trying to push war. It's these, you know, allies from Germany, UK, France, you name it. They're working with Ukraine, the European Union, and they're really trying to push war. So what he has to do is he actually has to push them down this path. And actually, if you read Sun Tzu, Art of War, he is now doing exactly what the enemy wants. And he just recently placed sanctions on Russia. Now think about it. We've been placing sanctions on Russia since 2014. It's been 11 years, going on 12 years. How did that work out so far? Has Russia folded? Is Russia's economy destroyed? No, not at all. But I think Trump and the Patriots, I think they know this. But again, you can't place sanctions on the allies. That would look ridiculous. So what do you have to do? You have to place sanctions on Russia. Because again, I think Trump and the Patriots, I think Marco Rubio, when he was listening to what was going on with the NATO president, you could see that they know exactly who's trying to push this. And just in the last couple of days, all of a sudden, we have the UK stopping a Russian ship. We have the Lithuania president saying, oh, look, Russia plane came into our airspace. All of a sudden, we're starting to see all these different things because what they're doing is they're building the idea that Russia is trying to do something. Just like we mentioned yesterday, where all of a sudden they're saying that these Russian operatives, they're actually Ukrainians, they were trying to figure out the military bases in Poland because they were trying to plant a false flag, but they were found out. And of course, they had to say, oh, no, we're part of the Russians. Yes, that's who we are. And this was done on purpose. And I do believe that Scavino is continually giving us messages with Nessun Dorma. And this opera was used during the movie Sum of All Fears, where the American president and the Russian president, they were using back channels to stop a third party, the deep state players, from pushing World War III. And yes, during that movie, there was an explosion. It was a nuclear explosion in a football stadium. Do I think there's going to be an explosion here in this country? No, probably out in Europe or some type of scare event to try to convince us that we need to go to war. And of course, they're going to blame it on Russia. But I do believe that Scavino is continually sending us this message. And his latest message is Nessun Dorma. And this was played when they were basically going after the third party, the deep state players that were trying to start World War III, and they actually took them out. And when you look at the video that Scavino put out, there's a timestamp on there of 3:02, and it points to a post that says for green. So I do believe he's letting us know that, yeah, it's a green light. This is the direction that we're heading in. And I do believe we are heading in this direction. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that we could see that as all these individuals like Comey and Brennan and Schiff and Letitia James and the rest, Bolton, as charges are being brought against them, they can't speak to each other. So I do believe what they're doing now is they're going on to the fake news and they're sending messages back and forth. And it looks like Brennan sent a message to Comey. Now, we're going to be discussing all all about this a little bit later on. But let's first talk about the deep state players, the Ds, on how they are protecting the illegals in this country. Remember, if they lose the illegals, they lose everything. Because how do you run the mail-in ballot scheme? How do you cheat in the elections? How do you install your people? You can't. This is why they're going to be fighting tooth and nail, because they know if they lose this, they're screwed. So they're being instructed to do whatever they have to make sure that you protect the illegals. And remember that these are the low-level people that are being instructed. We actually have to go to the higher level people and then eventually the central bank, because we need to go to the source of what's allowing the deep state to even exist today. And that is always money. If there's no money, let's see, there's no Antifa, there's no World Economic Forum, there's no World Health Organization, there's none of these NGOs. Remember, this is what they set up a long time ago, and they did it with money. And if we don't eventually get rid of the source of what created all of this, it doesn't matter how many people you arrest, because it's going to breed corruption once again. And I do believe this is why Trump now is going after the central bank system. And he's doing it in a way that I don't think it was ever done before, because, again, they've grown the central bank so large and so deep that he has to build a system that can compete with it. And that's what he's doing with the tariff system right now, because eventually he's going to wean us off the Federal Reserve, which means he's going to be shutting the Federal Reserve down, which means the deep state players will not get their funds like they used to, which means no funding will go to the World Health Organization. No funding will go to all these different countries, because, again, we've been sending funds to all these different countries, and all the world organizations that were created, they go down the drain. The NGOs go down the drain. Soros has no money to play with because he's not using his own money. So everything all of a sudden comes to a screeching halt. And this is why they were so pissed off and angry that they shut down USAID. Because, wait a minute, this was funding our NGOs. This was funding a lot. Now, this is not their only funding. And remember, where did USAID get the funding? Oh, the Federal Reserve. That's where they got the funding. So, yes, this has to be shut down. But you can see the deep state players, as of right now, they need to make sure that the illegals stay in this country, because without the illegals, they can never win an election. And they need them for chaos. Newsweek put out an interesting article, and they said child predator caught by ICE after living illegally in the U.S. for 17 years. Well, once again, Newsweek lied. Homeland Security responded to this and said, this criminal illegal alien lied to Newsweek, claiming he hadn't committed any crimes. Wrong. DHS identified Jose Molina, a criminal illegal alien from Nicaragua, as a target of law enforcement in an undercover child sex trafficking operation when he solicited sex from a minor. Thanks to the brave men and women of ICE and HSI, this child predator was removed from our country. Absolutely. But you can see the deep state players, they're now assisting the illegals. They're not helping ICE. They're not helping the National Guard. They're not going along with the people of this country where we want these people deported. They're going along and assisting the illegals. Gregory Royal Pratt put this out and said, Community report, ICE is on 26th Street by El Milagro. This is the heart of Chicago's Mexican community in Little Village. Trisha McLaughlin says, why is a Chicago Tribune reporter telegraphing the location of federal law enforcement? Because they're assisting the illegals and criminals in this country, because they themselves are the criminals. Dapper Detective put this out and said, without provocation, ICE agents were rammed in Chicago in another targeted attack by activists, and Byron Lopez, the alderman of the 25th Ward, approves it. This message from the Democratic Party is to murder federal agents to protect the illegal aliens. Absolutely. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said, 14 people were shot over the weekend in Chicago, 4 dead. What does failed Governor Pritzker and the equally pathetic mayor say now? Bring in the federal government and bring them in now. But they don't want that in there because, again, they're going to deport the illegals. They're going to arrest the criminals, and they lose the people that they need for chaos. They lose the people that will assist them in cheating in the elections. So what is New York doing? What is California doing? And I do believe a lot of the other blue states are going to jump on board with all of this. They're creating a system to track ICE, a portal system. Letitia James, who's been brought up on charges, says, we're launching a portal to review federal immigration enforcement in New York after yesterday's ICE raid on Canal Street. New Yorkers who were present should submit videos or photos, and we will review and investigate any violations of the law. And we could see out in California, they're creating a master ICE tracker. Secretary Kristi Noem responded to this and said, in the wake of violent domestic terror attacks, bounties, and more than 1,000% increase in assaults against our ICE officers, radical sanctuary politicians are now building a master ICE tracker to solicit and share information on the movements of the ICE officers. Let's call this what it is, a pipeline that will be funnel information on American law enforcement directly into the hands of anarchists, domestic terrorists, and cartel members. I'm working with Pam Bondi to ensure that any individual who doxes, threatens, and assaults our law enforcement officers will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The same liberals who wanted to defund the police are now trying to track ICE agents in real time. Think about that for a second. So the people that wanted to defund the police are now supporting the illegals and the criminals. I think that says it all. Stephen Miller says, as he responds to everything that we're seeing right now, especially what's going on out in L.A., he says, what is the correct term to describe the conduct of the Democratic Party? There's only one word that comes to my mind. Insurrectionists.
Absolutely, folks. Can you believe it? And the people, the actual citizens, Americans, are they that ignorant that they can't see this? I guess they are. I don't know. That's why I keep sharing this information out, hoping that I can not just be preaching to the choir, but I can have somebody say, maybe I shouldn't be voting Democrat. I don't know. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from X22 Report. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I'm like 12 minutes into this 1 hour and 16-minute video, so there's an hour more information. If you want to watch more of it, you can scroll down to the description box below and see more of this information. Great information. All these videos here, folks, that I've shared with you, the links are in the description box, even the links to their channels if you want to go see other information that they might have. Okay, I just copied the live chat into a comment because when this live stream is over, the chat will just kind of evaporate into hyperspace. Before we move on, I do want to share some information here from 1725 Coffee. It's pretty good stuff. Let's take a listen to that.
Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash.
All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. And a black 1775 tumbler.
$170 worth of coffee and gear. Yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is.
Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does.
All right. There you have it, folks. Good stuff. Okay, let me remind you, folks, that the videos that I shared in my podcast are videos that I post on Murtech.com. Right here is ACLJ. The video from them. There's the video from Benny Johnson, Wendy Bell, and X22 Report are down here in alphabetical order. So I have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos here at Murtech.com, but I don't have time to share all of this information with you. That's why I do have my daily news wrap-up coming up here about 9:30. So go ahead and take a break, grab a cup of coffee and a donut or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer, and meet me back here at 9:30 and catch up on some more information here. I will be sharing information from here. Sorry, Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson has some great podcasts. I will be sharing his information tonight. So let me get that all set up and meet me back here later. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for being with me. I appreciate your time. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later. Thanks again, and may God bless.